And what is good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. You guys already know I'm dropping another gem for you. And today we are talking about celibacy and abstinence. Now, first things first, we're going to describe the difference between celibacy and abstinence. Celibacy is to be an unmarried person, basically be single, and abstain yourself from having sex until marriage. That's celibacy. But abstinence is really just to abstain. Now, that word is most commonly used when it's abstaining from sex. But, to abstain, you could abstain from anything. You could abstain from the TV, from the video games, from social media, and anything else that you choose to abstain from. But we are talking about abstinence from sex, right? So I'm going to explain to you guys my journey, the benefits that have come with abstinence, and basically just encourage you guys to choose to be abstinent and celibate for the sake of your life and, for your soul. So let's get straight into it. So, abstinence, right? Roughly about 2 years ago, before I met my wife, I decided that I wanted to be abstinent. I was in a position where I felt really down. Like I struggled with lust for the longest time and I struggled with sexual immorality. And I was in a position where I felt like I was undervaluing myself because I was settling for less than what I wanted, which was a wife. I was settling for lust over love. And not only that, I was settling for lust with women that I would have never wanted to love as a wife. And that thought alone made me think, because I'm settling so low than what I actually want, I think I should be abstinent until I could get something that I actually want. Now, when I started my journey of abstinence, my mind, I was not fully right with God. I was not in the correct state of salvation and righteousness that I should have been in. When I started my abstinence journey, I told myself, I said, I'm going to be abstinent until I find a woman that's worth breaking my abstinence for. Somebody who's either A, very beautiful, or B, high value. But in my mind, I said it's got to be both because I'm not going to break my abstinence for a beautiful girl who's low value. That's not valuing myself. So, yeah, I didn't start out my abstinence journey correctly. But for anybody that's watching this, if you are considering starting your abstinence journey, I recommend that you start your celibacy journey as well, which is being abstinent until you're married. Now, I have a video talking about sex being meant for marriage, and I'm going to put the link in that bio. So if you guys want to go watch it, that'll get more into the whole celibacy thing and why it's more worth being celibate than it is to just do your own thing and have sex with strangers, right? But anyways, moving forward, I started my abstinence journey, and like I said, I struggled with lust and sexual immorality for a long time. So in the beginning of my abstinence journey, I had to come up with a way to preserve myself, to preserve my abstinence, and preserve it to a point where I wouldn't just break under pressure or under temptation. So the steps that I took at the beginning of my abstinence journey was separating myself from women that I was attracted to, that I wanted to have sex with, or women that I had previously had sex with. So anybody that I knew personally that I was attracted to and wanted to hook up with, or that I had previously hooked up with, I began to separate myself from those relationships. I began to distance myself from those people because I didn't want the temptation of going and trying to either A, attempt to sleep with that person, or B, go back and sleep with that person if I had already slept with them. So I began to separate myself from women, from those women. And the next step that I went into was to it was to clean up my social media algorithms. So things like Instagram and TikTok, where on my TikTok feed, it would be me scrolling and it would just be half naked women. Sometimes they'd be twerking or dancing. And then on Instagram, it'd be half naked women, OnlyFans models, Instagram models, all that kind of stuff. So I had to clean that up, right? So what I did is any picture, any video that I saw on Instagram, and even any girl that I followed on Instagram that I didn't know personally on a friendly level, on a strictly platonic level, I unfollowed those girls and I'd click on those posts and I'd press uninterested and I'd keep refreshing. And every other post that came up that was a woman that was like being promiscuous in a way or that I was lusting after, I'd click on that post and then I click uninterested. Same thing on TikTok. I'd hold the post, click not interested, and keep refreshing and keep scrolling up until my social media was completely clean. So what I did in that situation, separating myself from women and cleaning up my algorithm, was I was removing temptation from my atmosphere. I was removing myself from a tempting atmosphere and protecting myself from temptation. But that doesn't mean temptation didn't come. There would be nights where, as men, we have hormones. We have carnal desires. It's our flesh. We were programmed that way, but that doesn't mean that we cannot overcome it. There were nights where I had really lustful desires, where my hormones were like really going crazy. Like I was, in a sense, I felt ravenous because I'm like, man, I gotta have sex. I gotta have sex. Personally, I was never somebody that wanted to masturbate. I wasn't somebody that was really into pornography. Me, I preferred to try to go out and find women. And so I really I really had to find it within myself to pray when temptation came upon me, when my own male desires came upon me, when my fleshly desires came upon me, and it felt so strong that I was going to cry because it was almost like an addiction. I cried out to God. This is one of the steps that I took. And if you're starting your abstinence journey, celibacy journey, and you've struggled with lust and sexual immorality, talk to God. Don't talk to your friends. Don't talk to your mother, your father, your brothers. Talk to God. He is going to help you overcome it. I kid you not, those nights when it became hard and I really wanted to text one of those old girls that I used to know or text a new girl and see if she wanted to meet up, I prayed. I'd put my phone in the corner of the room or go leave my phone in the bathroom, shut the door, and I'd go back to my room and I would get on my knees and I would pray. And there were times where I was crying because it was such a spiritual battle, really, because I was getting my spirit to overcome my flesh. God gave me strength. He gave me strength to overcome my flesh. He gave me strength in my soul to overcome my fleshly desires. And I recommend that you guys do that if you're starting this and you've struggled with lust and sexual immorality in the past. Do that and get right with God. Only He can bring you through the way that you need to come through. But once I started to come through, once my sexually immoral desires started to fade, once the temptations were no longer temptations, the benefits came. The benefits of being abstinent came. And let me tell you something, it was something that felt like unreal. It felt like a superpower. Because here's what happened. My energy began to rise. My energy levels began to flourish. I felt like I could do anything. I was always on go. I was always moving, and I felt like I was never running out of energy. I felt like the Energizer Bunny. I kept pushing and moving and grooving, and it was the best feeling in the world having that much energy because I never felt like that before. After that came extreme focus. When it came to work, when it came to tasks, when it came to the grind, my focus was always on point. My focus was on a completely different level. I was not distracted. I was not foggy in the mind. My thoughts weren't foggy. My emotions weren't foggy. I was so clear-headed and clear-hearted. It was like I've never been drunk or high before, but I could honestly say that that's probably what true sobriety feels like, is having a clear mind and a clear heart, and just being able to focus without distraction. So that was what came after that. And then another thing I noticed is during that time, I was trying to focus on getting back in the gym. And I noticed my progress was sped up. My testosterone increased, and that was what was causing my focus and my energy. But it was also causing changes in my body. I was building muscle and losing fat in a way that I had never done before. And it was the best feeling ever. So after that, my confidence came. My confidence came in a way that I had never imagined. I felt so confident in myself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And it was just one of the best feelings. And not only that, there were times where temptation did come back, but the temptations weren't temptation anymore, because what I gained after confidence was self-worth and self-value. My self-worth and self-value had elevated to a level that I would have never imagined it elevating. Yeah, I wasn't completely saved at the time. I wasn't fully righteous and living in the way that God would have commanded me to live. But the benefits that I gained, having an elevated sense of self-worth and self-value, it made me feel on top of the world. I would go out to the clubs with my cousins. I never drank, I never smoked, I never did drugs. But one particular night I went out to the club, and this was probably the first night out after being celibate for about a month. And once I was out, I said, I'm not trying to focus on any girls. I'm being celibate, or I'm being abstinent. I think I probably said celibate multiple times, but I was being abstinent. Um, I said, I'm not focusing on any girls. I'm being abstinent. I just want to kick it with the guys tonight. But that night, multiple women were grabbing on me. Women see when you value yourself. Women see when you have a high sense of self-worth. But also, because of that environment, there are demons inside of those women that want to tear down what me and God had built together and what God had built in me and through me. But my sense of self-value and self-worth was so high that the women that were trying to take me home, the women that were trying to grab me, I denied them. And some of them were really beautiful women. But in my mind, I said, no, I see the environment that we're in, and I'm not going to settle for less. I'd rather have something real. I'd rather have something more wholesome, right? And so I denied those women. And when I denied those women, the sense of power that came on me, man, the sense of power that can come upon you, like most times when women are choosing, they get their pick of what kind of a man they can choose. But how often does a man get to pick what kind of woman he ends up with? How often? Not that often. But in that case, I got the pick and I picked none of them. And it was the best thing ever. It was the best feeling ever, because I don't think I had ever really turned down beautiful women. I had turned down women that I wasn't attracted to, but I don't think at that point I had ever turned down a beautiful woman in my life. And so for me to do that, it really showed me how far my abstinence journey had taken me. And it was just the most beautiful feeling. I felt like I was flying. I felt like I was flying for real. And I'm encouraging you guys today to start your abstinence journey, to start your celibacy journey, and get on track with the things that you want to get on track with. I'm encouraging the men, really, the men, because I know what the benefits are, the benefits that come with being abstinent. And they're great benefits. You know, like I said, energy, focus, increased testosterone, self-worth, self-value, and a deeper, more developed, and closer relationship with God. I'm encouraging you guys today to start today, not tomorrow, not next week. Start right now as you're watching this video. Make the decision to start, and I promise you, in a month or two, you will not regret it. You will not regret starting this. But that's when I encourage you to finish it by being celibate and waiting until marriage, waiting until you find your wife. Wait until you find your missing rib, bro. I'm trying to tell you guys. And, again, if you guys want to hear more about the celibacy thing and waiting until marriage, I got the link for that video in the bio. So make sure you guys click that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. Peace.